Whether you're sipping your morning brew or catching up later, we've got your industry insights. I'm Steve.
And I'm Claire. Welcome to Auto Intelligence, where we explore the intersection of automotive, AI, mobility, and the innovations shaping our future.
Auto Intelligence is produced by AutoAgentic AI, and we drop new episodes every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Thanks to all of you for listening and for helping us build this amazing community of forward-thinking professionals.
Today, we're diving deep into a story that's been hiding in plain sight. Last week, we covered the epic showdown between East and West in our episode Two Empires, One Frontier, how China and the West took diverging roads to AI supremacy.
Right, and that episode focused on the massive investments, the competition, the race for AI dominance between Silicon Valley and Shenzhen. But there's a third player in this story that's been quietly shaping everything from the beginning.
Canada, and specifically Toronto. While everyone's been watching the US and China duke it out, some of the most fundamental breakthroughs in artificial intelligence have been happening in Canadian university labs and research centres.
We're talking about the neural network revolution, deep learning, the very foundations of modern AI. And it all traces back to researchers who were basically outsiders.
Exactly. Before ChatGPT was dominating headlines, before AI was in every boardroom conversation, the seeds of this entire revolution were sprouting in places like the University of Toronto. And here's the thing, these weren't well-funded Silicon Valley labs with massive resources.
No, quite the opposite. These were researchers who were actually being told to stop working on what they believed in. Let me tell you about Geoffrey Hinton, who's basically the godfather of deep learning.
Born in the UK, educated at Cambridge, but he left Britain for Canada in 1986, and his reason: he was uncomfortable with military funding in the US and frustrated with the computer science establishment that had written off neural networks.
Think about that timing, 1986. The AI winter was in full swing. Neural networks were considered a dead end. Hinton later said, and I'm quoting here, "I had arguments all the time. They were telling me to stop working on those silly nets. But I knew the vision worked if we had the compute power, and Canada gave me time to figure it out."
And that's such a crucial point. Canada gave him time, the intellectual freedom, the institutional support to pursue this non-mainstream path. The University of Toronto wasn't pressuring him for immediate commercial results.
Fast forward to 2012. Hinton, working with students Alex Krzyzewski and Ilya Sutskever, unveils AlexNet. This deep convolutional neural network trained on GPUs absolutely crushed the competition in the International ImageNet Challenge.
And this wasn't just some academic prize. This altered the trajectory of AI worldwide. Computer vision, natural language processing, robotics, everything we're seeing today traces back to that breakthrough.
Both Krzyzewski and Sutskever came from the University of Toronto. That's not a coincidence. That's the depth of talent being developed there.
But here's what's fascinating about Canada's approach. While the US and China were racing for commercial applications and market dominance, Canada was thinking differently. In March 2017, they became the first country in the world to launch an official AI strategy.
$125 million over 5 years. But it wasn't just about throwing money at the problem. They had specific goals: retain top AI research talent, create academic centers linking researchers, develop ethical guidelines, and support the translation of research into industry applications.
And they created 3 flagship AI institutes, the Vector Institute in Toronto, focusing on deep learning and health applications, Mila in Montreal, founded by Yoshua Bengio, known for language modeling and ethics, and Amy in Edmonton, led by Richard Sutton, the global leader in reinforcement learning.
Yoshua Bengio made a really interesting point back in 2019. He said, "We don't just want to be global leaders in research, we want to be global leaders in making AI work for society."
That's the Canadian difference right there. It's not just about being first to market or dominating commercially. It's about responsible development.
Let's talk about Toronto specifically because it's become this incredible hub. You've got world-class universities, diverse talent, aligned government policy, and these close connections between academia and industry.
The Vector Institute launched in 2017 with over $100 million in combined government, corporate, and philanthropic funding. It sits right in the heart of Toronto's Innovation District, adjacent to the Mars Discovery District.
And the corporate partners tell the story. TD Bank, Google, NVIDIA, DeepMind, over 24 major companies supporting this research.
Garth Gibson, Vector's former president and CEO told CBC, "We're not just doing theory, we're accelerating real adoption in health, finance, logistics, and public services." In 2023 alone, they supported over 750 industry-affiliated AI projects.
But let's go back to the University of Toronto, because this is where the magic really happens. Ranked among the top AI research institutions globally, and the faculty list reads like a who's who of AI pioneers.
Geoffrey Hinton, of course, but also Raquel Urtasun, Sanja Fidler, Brendan Frey, Marcia Gassemi. This interdisciplinary ecosystem spans computer science, medicine, engineering, business.
The U of T AI group was created in the 1980s, and they've produced some of the most cited AI papers ever written. Backpropagation in 1986, AlexNet in 2012, major works on recurrent nets and generative models.
Nick Frost, who's now co-founder at Cohere and was a former student of Hinton's, put it perfectly. He said, "It was never just about the math. It was about a bigger idea of how machines might one day learn like we do. That shaped everything."
And that brings us to the next generation of Canadian AI leaders. Raquel Urtasun is a perfect example. After leading Uber's advanced technologies group in Toronto, she spun out Wabi in 2021.
Wabi is trying to solve autonomous vehicles in a fundamentally different way. Instead of just relying on real-world miles, they're using simulated environments to make faster, safer progress.
Urtasun told the Toronto Star in 2022, "We opened Wabi in Canada because the talent, the infrastructure, and the academic collaboration possibilities are world-class." The company raised over $100 million from investors, including Uber and Khosla Ventures.
But here's the company that really shows Canada can compete globally in AI products, not just research. Cohere, founded in 2019 by Aidan Gomez, Nick Frost, and Ivan Zhang.
This is Toronto's challenge to OpenAI. They're building large language models, the technology behind ChatGPT, but with a focus on privacy, enterprise readiness, and non-English language support.
In 2023 and 2024, they're serving enterprise LLMs to Salesforce, Spotify, and Jasper AI. Aidan Gomez told CBC News, "We invented this technology, so we're keeping it Canadian as long as we can. We think Canada can be more than just a research hub. It can be a product leader too."
You're listening to Auto Intelligence, brought to you by Auto Agentic,
the platform transforming automotive retail with intelligent, human-centered AI. What sets Auto Agentic apart is our understanding that true innovation happens when cutting-edge technology meets deep industry expertise, just like we're seeing with Canada's approach to AI development.
Now back to today's topic.
The numbers really tell the story of Canada's AI ecosystem. They host over 1,200 AI-related startups, with around 600 in the Greater Toronto area alone.
We've got companies like Deep Genomics doing AI for drug discovery, Layer 6 doing personalized banking AI before being acquired by TD, Benchsci building biomedical R&D tools.
And they're supported by serious investors, Georgian partners, Omas Ventures, Relay Ventures, plus institutional anchors like Creative Destruction Lab and Mars Discovery District.
In 2022 to 2023, Toronto-based AI companies raised over $1.3 billion in venture capital funding. That makes it the third largest AI startup hub in North America after Silicon Valley and New York.
But here's what's really different about Canada's approach. And this goes back to that ethical foundation we talked about earlier. While private innovation is booming, they've remained committed to responsible AI deployment.
They created the Directive on Automated Decision-Making in 2019, which applies military-grade risk scoring for any AI used in federal government services.
There's the Algorithmic Impact Assessment, a public tool for assessing ethics in new machine learning systems. And Bill C-27, the Artificial Intelligence and Data Act, which is Canada's most comprehensive proposed legislation regulating commercial AI use.
This is fascinating because while the US and China are racing ahead with deployment, Canada is saying, hold on, let's make sure we're doing this right.
Exactly. And they're not just talking about it at the policy level. They're funding AI skills accelerators, expanding master's programs in data science, creating public literacy efforts like Understanding AI webinars accessible across Canada.
Valerie Pisano, CEO of Mila, said something really important. AI should not be for the few. Our job is to give people across Canada, especially those outside major cities, the skills to participate and benefit.
That's such a different philosophy from what we've seen in other AI hubs. It's not just about creating unicorn companies or dominating markets, it's about bringing people along.
And when you look at the funding evolution, it shows Canada's commitment. That initial $125 million from 2017. By 2023, funding under the strategy had expanded to $443 million for the second phase.
What's really striking to me is how this all started with outsiders. Hinton was an outsider when he came to Canada. Neural networks were outsider technology, but Canada gave these ideas space to breathe and develop.
Right, and now those outsider ideas are everywhere. Every time someone uses ChatGPT or Google Translate or gets a recommendation from Netflix, they're using technology that traces back to those neural network breakthroughs from Toronto.
But it's not just the technology, it's the approach. While Silicon Valley optimizes for speed and China optimizes for scale, Canada seems to be optimizing for sustainability and ethics.
That's showing up in really practical ways, like when Cohere talks about privacy-first language models, or when Wabi focuses on simulation for safety in autonomous vehicles, or when the Vector Institute emphasizes responsible AI adoption in healthcare and finance.
And this ethical approach isn't slowing them down. If anything, it's becoming a competitive advantage as companies and governments worldwide start grappling with AI governance and responsible deployment.
There's also something about the collaborative culture. The way academia, industry, and government work together in Canada seems different from what we see elsewhere.
Absolutely. You don't get Geoffrey Hinton staying at the University of Toronto for decades, training generations of students if there isn't something special about that environment.
And those students, Alex Krzyzewski, Ilya Sutskever, Nick Frost, Aidan Gomez, they're now leading major AI companies. That's the compound effect of having strong academic foundations.
Speaking of compound effects, let's talk about diversity. Canada's approach to AI talent development has been much more inclusive from the start.
The partnerships with Indigenous communities, the focus on underrepresented populations, the emphasis on bringing smaller cities into the AI conversation, that's creating a different kind of talent pipeline.
And when you're trying to build AI that works for everyone, you need teams that represent everyone. That seems obvious, but it's not how every AI hub has approached talent development.
There's also the international dimension. While the US has been restricting some AI talent flows and China has been more closed, Canada has been actively attracting researchers from around the world.
That's part of their competitive advantage. When talented researchers want academic freedom, plus strong industry connections, plus ethical frameworks, Toronto has become an obvious choice.
And the timing worked out perfectly. Right as AI was transitioning from pure research to commercial applications, Canada had built exactly the infrastructure needed to support that transition.
The Vector Institute launching in 2017, right when deep learning was hitting its stride. The national AI strategy providing funding just as talent retention was becoming critical.
It's almost like they saw around the corner. While everyone else was fighting the last war, Canada was preparing for the next one.
But let's be realistic about the challenges. Brain drain is still real. Many of those breakthrough researchers and entrepreneurs have been recruited to Silicon Valley or started companies that eventually get acquired by US tech giants.
True, but what's interesting is how many are choosing to stay or even coming back. Raquel Urtasun could have started Wabi anywhere, but she chose Toronto. The Cohere team is committed to keeping their core operations Canadian.
And that's where policy matters. The continued investment in the AI strategy, the supportive regulatory environment, the quality of life in cities like Toronto, these aren't accidents.
Right. It's a deliberate strategy to create an environment where world-class AI research and development can happen without compromising on values.
Which brings us back to ethics. This isn't just nice to have for Canada. It's becoming their defining characteristic in AI.
When companies worldwide are struggling with AI bias, algorithmic transparency, human rights, and automated decision-making, they're looking to Canadian frameworks and Canadian talent.
That algorithmic impact assessment tool we mentioned, it's being studied and adapted by governments around the world.
And as AI becomes more powerful and more pervasive, that ethical leadership becomes more valuable, not less.
Let's talk about what this means going forward. We've covered how Canada helped birth the neural network revolution, how they built a national strategy, how Toronto became a global AI hub.
The question is whether they can maintain this position as AI continues to evolve. We're seeing massive investments from the US and China, new breakthroughs happening at incredible pace.
But I think Canada's bet is that the future of AI isn't just about who can build the biggest models or deploy the fastest. It's about who can build AI that actually works for society long term.
And if that's the bet, they're well positioned. The combination of technical excellence, ethical frameworks, collaborative culture, and policy support, that's a unique combination.
Plus, they're not trying to do everything. They're focusing on their strengths: foundational research, responsible development, talent development, specific application areas like healthcare and finance.
It's a more sustainable approach than trying to match the massive investments we're seeing elsewhere. Quality over quantity, depth over breadth.
And the compound effects are starting to show. Those early investments in talent and infrastructure are paying off in ways that pure capital can't replicate.
When I look at this story, what strikes me most is how it started with people who believed in ideas that others had given up on. Neural networks were dead, and Geoffrey Hinton kept working on them anyway.
And Canada gave him the space to do that, not because they knew it would pay off, nobody knew that, but because they believed in supporting fundamental research even when it wasn't fashionable.
That's a lesson for any innovation ecosystem. Sometimes the most important breakthroughs come from giving people time and resources to work on unpopular ideas.
And now those unpopular ideas are reshaping the world. Every major AI advancement we're seeing today has roots in that foundational research from Toronto.
But Canada didn't just contribute to the technology, they're contributing to how we think about technology, the ethical frameworks, the inclusive approach, the focus on societal benefit. That's influencing AI development globally.
Which might be their most important contribution, because as powerful as AI is becoming, how we develop and deploy it matters as much as the technology itself.
Looking at everything we've covered today, from Geoffrey Hinton's early neural network research to companies like Cohere and Wabi, to the national AI strategy and ethical frameworks, what stands out to you most?
Honestly, it's the long-term thinking. While others were chasing short-term gains, Canada was building foundations, and now those foundations are supporting world-class AI innovation.
For me, it's the collaborative approach. Academia working with industry, government supporting research without micromanaging, international talent mixing with homegrown expertise. That's created something special.
And it shows that there isn't just one way to be an AI leader. You don't have to choose between innovation and ethics, between global competitiveness and social responsibility.
Canada proved you can have both. And as AI continues to reshape every industry and every aspect of society, that Canadian model is looking more and more prescient.
What started at the edge of the map is now at the center of the conversation. As Geoffrey Hinton put it, we weren't just dreaming about machines that think. We were dreaming about what kind of world that thinking will build.
And that's the real legacy of Canada's contribution to AI. Not just the technology, but the thoughtfulness about how that technology shapes our future.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Canada's understated but fundamental role in the AI revolution. It's a story that deserves more attention, especially as we think about where AI goes next.
This episode was produced by the team at AutoAgentic. Learn more at autoagentic.ai. We'd also like to thank our producer, Barry Hillier, co-founder and CEO of AutoAgentic AI, whose vision for responsible AI innovation aligns perfectly with the Canadian approach we've been discussing today.
If you'd like to reach out with suggestions for future topics or share your thoughts on today's conversation, email us at barry@autoagentic.ai. Barry is always looking for exciting new topics, companies, and people who are shaping mobility and pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
Until next time, keep thinking about how the technology we build today shapes the world we live in tomorrow.